The Quantum-class battlecruiser Dominance hung like a silent predator against the backdrop of stars, its obsidian hull absorbing and reflecting light in ways that made it nearly invisible to primitive detection systems. Captain Zarak of the Kalxari Confederation stood motionless, his exoskeletal frame casting a long shadow across the ship's holographic bridge. "Target acquired," announced Senior Navigator Krelix, mandibles clicking with anticipation. The holographic display of Earth rotated slowly, a blue-green marble teeming with what the Kalxari considered barely sentient life. Scattered technological signatures flickered weakly across the planet's surface. Primitive communication networks, rudimentary satellite systems, and electromagnetic emissions that spoke of a species barely capable of understanding its own technological limitations. Zarak's three eyes narrowed. He had conquered hundreds of worlds, assimilated dozens of species into the Kalxari Confederation. This would be no different. Earth was just another waypoint in their galactic expansion, another civilization to be cataloged, controlled, and ultimately absorbed. What the captain didn't know was that a tiny listening device, no larger than a human thumbnail and crafted from an ingenious combination of repurposed smartphone components and experimental quantum entanglement technology, was already transmitting every single word from the bridge. In a nondescript monitoring station beneath San Francisco, Marcus Chen leaned back in his chair, a wry smile playing across his lips. At 32, he was a veteran of multiple cyber warfare units, with a reputation for thinking several steps beyond conventional strategy. The device he and his team had managed to smuggle aboard the alien vessel was working perfectly. "Command," he called out, his fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. "You're not going to believe this." The room filled with military personnel, intelligence analysts, and a few civilian tech experts who had been recruited for their unique problem-solving skills. They listened intently as the alien conversation unfolded, each word translated in real time by an AI system that was already learning and adapting to the alien language faster than any previous translation matrix. Elena Rodriguez, a retired Special Forces operator turned strategic consultant, studied the readouts. "They're treating us like we're children," she muttered, her Puerto Rican heritage burning with a fierce determination that had defined her entire military career. Big mistake. The Kalxari saw patterns of conquest, predictable responses, hierarchical structures they could manipulate. What they didn't understand was humanity's fundamental characteristic, the ability to turn chaos into strategy, to find opportunity in the most unexpected places. Marcus continued monitoring the transmission. The aliens were discussing invasion strategies with the cold, calculated precision of a species that had never encountered true unpredictability. They were mapping out Earth's major population centers, calculating resource extraction routes, planning the most efficient method of subjugation. Little did they know that every single transmission was being analyzed, dissected, and understood by a global network of humans who were already several steps ahead. "They're coming," Marcus finally said, his voice calm but electric with potential. "And they have no idea what's waiting for them." The spark of conflict had been lit. Humanity's most extraordinary adventure was about to begin. In orbit, the Dominance continued its silent approach, unaware that its every movement was being tracked, analyzed, and prepared for. The first mistake of many was already in motion. The Kalxari believed they were the hunters. They would soon learn that on Earth, everyone is potentially a hunter, and chaos is the most powerful weapon of all. The first wave of Kalxari attack came without warning, quantum-powered energy weapons slicing through the atmosphere like cosmic scalpels. Massive plasma cannons erupted from their battleships, targeting major population centers with surgical precision. New York, Beijing, London, Tokyo. Each city transformed into a canvas of destruction, massive energy pulses turning skyscrapers into molten glass and concrete. But the Kalxari had fundamentally misunderstood humanity. Instead of panic, a different response emerged. Within seconds of the first strike, social media platforms exploded with real-time tactical information. People weren't running. They were organizing. Traffic cameras, satellite feeds, smartphone cameras, weather monitoring systems. Everything became part of a living, breathing battlefield map. Elena Rodriguez watched from a makeshift command center buried beneath the Rocky Mountains. At 45, she was a veteran of multiple Black Ops missions, her Puerto Rican heritage combining with years of special forces training to create a strategic mind unlike any the Calxari had encountered. "They think we're going to break," she muttered to Marcus Chen, who was furiously working multiple communication channels. "They have no idea." In New York, as alien energy weapons turned Manhattan's skyline into a hellscape of melting steel and burning concrete, something extraordinary happened. Instead of total chaos, a networked response emerged. Subway systems became improvised shelters. Delivery truck drivers became emergency transportation coordinators. Construction workers transformed urban debris into makeshift barricades. A group of MIT students, trapped in a partially destroyed campus building, began hacking into the alien communication frequencies. Using nothing more than modified wireless routers and laptop computers, they created a distributed jamming network that began to interfere with Calxari targeting systems. In Beijing, a team of software engineers who had been working on an advanced AI gaming algorithm realized their predictive models could be adapted to alien tactical movements. What was once used to predict player behavior in massive multiplayer online games became a real-time defense prediction system. The Calxari had studied Earth's military capabilities. They knew about nuclear arsenals, about traditional military structures. What they didn't understand was humanity's capacity for instant, decentralized collaboration. Every strike they made was immediately analyzed, shared, and responded to by millions of minds working in parallel. Captain Zorak watched in increasing frustration as his perfectly calculated invasion began to deviate from every predictive model. Human responses were coming from everywhere and nowhere. Traditional military doctrine suggested targeting command structures would paralyze a civilization. But humans didn't have a single command structure. They were the command structure. A teenager in Mumbai created a crowdsourced mapping system that tracked alien ship movements in real time. An unemployed graphic designer in Sao Paulo developed a communication protocol using modified internet memes that could transmit tactical information faster than traditional military communication channels. Elena Rodriguez understood what was happening. "We're not fighting them," she told the assembled military and civilian leaders. "We're turning their invasion into a global problem-solving exercise." By the end of the first 12 hours, the Calxari had destroyed significant urban infrastructure, but they had also awakened something far more dangerous than any military force. They had united humanity in a way no previous threat ever had. Marcus Chen looked up from his console, a dangerous smile crossing his face. "They think this is a war," he said. "We're going to show them it's something else entirely." The first strike was over, but the real battle was just beginning. In orbit, the Calxari battleships continued their assault, believing their technological superiority guaranteed victory. They were about to learn the most important lesson about humanity. When cornered, humans don't just fight. They innovate. The Calxari expected traditional military responses. Instead, they got something far more terrifying. Human creativity unleashed without restraint. In Tokyo, a collective of hackers led by Keiko Nakamura began their assault. Keiko wasn't a military operative. She was a 28-year-old cybersecurity expert who had spent years developing intrusion algorithms for corporate penetration testing. Now those skills became humanity's first line of defense. Her team didn't just attack Calxari communication networks. They transformed them. Each breach was an artistic statement of technological rebellion. They didn't just interrupt alien communications. They filled their channels with cascading layers of complexity that made traditional decryption impossible. Meanwhile, in Berlin, a group of engineers had begun the most audacious project of the invasion. Led by Dr. Hans Müller, a quantum mechanics expert with a background in consumer electronics, they were turning everyday technology into weapons of mass disruption. We don't need massive military-industrial complexes, Dr. Mueller explained to his team. We need imagination. They began modifying wireless routers, smartphone batteries, and computer cooling systems into electromagnetic pulse generators. Each device became a potential weapon, each network a potential battlefield. What the Kaltsuri saw as primitive technology, humans saw as adaptive infrastructure waiting to be reimagined. In Silicon Valley, a group of programmers did something unprecedented. They created an AI system that could predict and counter alien tactical movements faster than any biological intelligence could think. It wasn't just an algorithm. It was a distributed neural network that learned and adapted in real time, drawing from millions of data points collected globally. The most shocking response came from an unexpected quarter: biomedical research. A team at the CDC, led by Dr. Aisha Okoye, discovered something the Kaltsuri could never have anticipated. Human immune system responses could be weaponized against alien biology in ways no conventional weapon could match. They're not just invaders, Dr. Okoye told her team. They're biological systems, and biological systems can be disrupted. Using CRISPR technologies and advanced viral engineering, they began developing targeted biological countermeasures, not to kill, but to destabilize, to create chaos within the alien physiological systems. The military establishment watched in a combination of horror and fascination. Traditional commanders wanted structured responses, but the most effective fighters were those who saw the invasion not as a war, but as the ultimate problem-solving challenge. A group of international gamers became unexpected tactical analysts. Their experience in massive multiplayer strategy games translated into real-world invasion response protocols. They understood something fundamental: complex systems can be manipulated through unexpected interactions. Elena Rodriguez oversaw this decentralized war effort. She understood that humanity's strength wasn't in its individual components, but in its capacity for rapid, collective adaptation. We're not fighting them with weapons, she told her team. We're fighting them with our fundamental nature: unpredictability, innovation, the ability to turn anything into a potential solution. The Kaltsuri had studied Earth's military capabilities. They knew about nuclear arsenals, about traditional military structures. What they didn't understand was humanity's capacity for instant, decentralized collaboration. Every system they attacked, humans transformed. Every technological barrier became an opportunity for reimagination. Marcus Chen, watching the global response, understood the deeper strategy. This isn't just a defense, he said. This is humanity showing the galaxy exactly who we are. The unconventional war had begun, and the Kaltsuri were about to learn that technology means nothing without the creativity to use it. Psychological warfare was never about weapons. It was about breaking the enemy's perception of reality. On the bridge of the Kaltsuri flagship, Senior Commander Vortak watched in mounting horror as human communication channels began to dissolve the very fabric of their tactical understanding. What had begun as a simple planetary invasion was transforming into something entirely incomprehensible. The first wave of psychological assault came from an unexpected source: the Internet. Massive broadcasts began flooding every Kaltsuri communication frequency. It started with Internet memes, rapidly changing images that made no logical sense: a cat wearing sunglasses, a dancing banana, animated GIFs that repeated endlessly, their nonsensical nature a direct assault on the highly logical Kaltsuri communication systems. Then came the music, not strategic communication, not coded messages, but pure, unadulterated human cultural chaos. Death metal from Scandinavian bands blasted through alien communication networks. Rapid-fire rap lyrics from New York mixed with traditional Japanese folk music. Electronic dance tracks from Berlin merged with Brazilian samba rhythms. Each transmission was a deliberate act of sonic warfare designed to completely overwhelm the aliens' sensory processing systems. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, working with a team of linguistic experts and psychological warfare specialists, understood the deeper strategy. We're not just communicating, she explained to Marcus Chen. "We're demonstrating the fundamental unpredictability of human consciousness." The Kalxari had encountered many species, hierarchical civilizations, hive mind collectives, purely logical technological societies, but nothing prepared them for humanity's capacity to generate pure, weaponized chaos. Their AI tactical networks, designed to process linear and predictable information streams, began to destabilize. Each human transmission was a puzzle with no solution, a communication pattern that defied every known linguistic and computational model. On the Kalxari flagship, senior commanders began to experience what could only be described as a collective nervous breakdown. Their perfectly ordered universe of tactical precision was being dismantled by creatures they had deemed inferior. Vortak watched as his most advanced communication analysts tried to make sense of the incoming transmissions, memes that changed context in milliseconds, musical compositions that violated every known harmonic principle, abstract art that seemed to move and shift even when stationary. "It's like they're attacking us with pure information entropy," one of his senior analysts reported, mandibles clicking in distress. The human strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. They weren't just fighting. They were demonstrating the fundamental difference between the Kalxari's rigid information processing and human creative consciousness. Social media became a weapon. Every trending hashtag, every viral video, every seemingly nonsensical internet trend was repurposed into a communication vector that the Kalxari could not comprehend or defend against. A group of neuroscientists discovered something even more terrifying. Human brains didn't just process information, they created meaning from chaos. Where Kalxari systems sought order, human minds generated complexity. Marcus Chen understood the deeper psychological warfare being waged. "We're not just fighting them," he told Alina. "We're showing them an entirely different way of existing." The broadcasts continued. Experimental jazz merged with classical orchestral compositions. Quantum physics lectures were intercut with stand-up comedy routines. Children's cartoons played alongside abstract philosophical discussions. On the Kalxari flagship, something unprecedented began to happen. Their most advanced AI systems started to malfunction, not in predictable ways, but in ways that suggested they were trying to understand, to adapt, to comprehend the incomprehensible human transmissions. Vortak realized the true horror of their situation. This wasn't just a war. This was a fundamental challenge to their entire understanding of intelligence, communication, and existence. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were rewriting the rules of conflict itself. And the Kalxari were rapidly becoming aware that they were woefully, catastrophically unprepared. Innovation was humanity's truest weapon. And nobody understood this better than the unlikely team assembled in a converted warehouse outside San Francisco. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a group that would have been laughed out of any traditional military planning session. A quantum physicist, a teenage robotics champion named Alex Martinez, a retired NASA engineer, 2 game designers, a neuroscientist, and a professional esports strategist. "We're not building weapons," Alina explained. "We're creating possibilities." What the Kalxari didn't understand was human innovation's fundamental nature, the ability to see potential where others saw limitations. Alex Martinez, all of 17 years old, had already developed adaptive camouflage technology that could change faster than any targeting system could track. Using a combination of metamaterials, quantum-responsive pigments, and AI-driven pattern recognition, their camouflage wasn't just about hiding. It was about constant, unpredictable transformation. The quantum physicist, Dr. Kamil Noack, had developed something even more extraordinary. Inspired by quantum entanglement principles, he created communication systems that existed in multiple states simultaneously. Traditional interception became impossible when your communication could exist everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Game designers brought something unexpected, complex systems thinking. They understood how interconnected, seemingly chaotic systems could produce predictable outcomes. They began developing drone swarm technologies that moved with an almost organic, unpredictable intelligence. The neuroscientist, Dr. Aisha Okoye, contributed the most revolutionary element. She had developed neural interfaces that could translate human creativity directly into technological action. Where alien systems followed rigid protocols, these interfaces could adapt in milliseconds. We're not just fighting, Dr. Okoye explained. We're expanding the very definition of technological interaction. Drone swarms developed by the team didn't just move tactically. They learned. They adapted. Each individual unit could make independent decisions while simultaneously contributing to a collective strategy that no centralized command could predict. The retired NASA engineer, Jack Reynolds, brought decades of improvisation experience. He showed the team how the Apollo missions were built on constant, real-time problem-solving. Space exploration, he would say, is just organized chaos with really good math. Their first major test came when they intercepted a Calxeri reconnaissance drone. Instead of trying to destroy it, they did something completely unexpected. They reprogrammed it. The drone began broadcasting a continuous stream of human cultural content. Classical music mixed with quantum mechanics lectures. Abstract art merged with complex mathematical equations. Each transmission was a deliberate assault on the aliens' understanding of communication. Marcus Chen, monitoring the operation, couldn't help but smile. We're not just fighting, he said. We're showing them how limited their understanding of intelligence really is. The team's most audacious project was a distributed AI system that could predict and counter alien tactical movements faster than any biological intelligence, drawing from millions of data points. Everything from weather patterns to social media trends. This AI didn't just analyze. It imagined. Where Calxeri systems saw linear progression, this AI saw infinite possibilities. Professional gamers became unexpected tactical analysts. Their experience in massive multiplayer strategy games translated into real-world invasion response protocols. They understood something fundamental. Complex systems can be manipulated through unexpected interactions. By the time the Calxeri realized what was happening, humanity had transformed the entire concept of technological warfare. Jack Reynolds looked at the team, a glint of triumph in his eyes. We're not just defending, he said. We're rewriting the rules of existence. And the Calxeri were about to learn that true technological superiority wasn't about hardware. It was about imagination. The plan was audacious, impossible, so perfectly human that it defied every principle of conventional warfare. Marcus Chen assembled a team that looked more like a mismatched group of problem solvers than a traditional infiltration unit. Dr. Elena Rodriguez would lead. Jack Reynolds from NASA would handle technical systems. Alex Martinez, the teenage robotics genius, would manage real-time adaptation. A former anonymous hacker named Zara Khalid would handle digital infiltration. Their target, the primary Calxeri command ship. The ship was a marvel of alien engineering. Quantum-shielded, multiple redundant communication systems, biological neural network interfaces that could detect and neutralize most known infiltration techniques. The Calxeri considered it impenetrable. They were wrong. The infiltration began not with a physical breach, but with a digital dance of incomprehensible complexity. Zara Khalid's hacking was an art form. She didn't just break through systems, she rewrote their fundamental understanding of security. Each firewall became a canvas, each security protocol a challenge to be deconstructed and reimagined. We're not just breaking in, Zara told the team. We're going to make them question reality itself. Their entry point was unexpected, a communication relay that the Calxeri considered so mundane it wasn't even properly secured. Alex Martinez had developed a nanodrome smaller than a human fingernail, capable of quantum-level information transmission and physical reconfiguration. As the drone penetrated the ship's systems, it began its work, not a traditional invasion, but a systematic deconstruction of the ship's neural network. Dr. Rodriguez understood the deeper strategy. We're not just infiltrating, she explained. We're demonstrating the fundamental weakness of their technological thinking. The team moved with a precision that defied traditional military training. Jack Reynolds used his NASA experience to understand the ship's internal systems. Every conduit, every energy relay became a potential pathway. Where the Calxari saw rigid infrastructure, he saw a complex, adaptable ecosystem. Alex Martinez's real-time adaptation algorithms began to take control. Communication systems started to behave in ways that defied all Calxari technological principles. Quantum communication channels began broadcasting seemingly random information, a mix of human cultural content that was simultaneously meaningless and profoundly disruptive. On the bridge, Senior Commander Vortak watched in growing horror as his most secure systems began to change. First, it was subtle. Communication relays started displaying strange images: a cat wearing sunglasses, an animated dancing banana, memes that shifted and changed faster than their systems could process. Then the music started. 1980s pop music began playing on all primary communication channels. Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, Rick Astley. The ship's most secure communication networks were suddenly filled with the most unexpected sonic assault in galactic history. Zara Khalid couldn't help but laugh. "We're not just hacking," she told Marcus over their secure communication channel. "We're performing a cultural intervention." The infiltration team had done something unprecedented. They hadn't just breached the most secure ship in the Calxari fleet. They had fundamentally challenged the aliens' entire understanding of technological security. As the ship's systems continued to behave in increasingly bizarre ways, Senior Commander Vortak realized the true horror of their situation. This wasn't just an infiltration. This was humanity demonstrating that technology was nothing more than a canvas for creativity. And the Calxari were about to become the most unexpected work of art in galactic history. News traveled faster than light, faster than quantum communication, faster than thought itself. Humanity had not just defeated the Calxari. They had rewritten the fundamental understanding of technological conflict across the galaxy. Diplomatic envoys from 100 different star systems watched the transmission in stunned disbelief. The mighty Calxari Confederation, a military power that had dominated galactic politics for millennia, had been systematically dismantled by a species most had considered primitive. The transmission wasn't a military report. It was a cultural intervention. Clips from the infiltrated Calxari command ship played across every communication network. A quantum-shielded battleship broadcasting 1980s pop music. Alien communication systems displaying internet memes. Complex tactical networks reduced to streams of seemingly random cultural content. Dr. Elena Rodriguez understood the deeper significance. This wasn't just a victory. This was a fundamental challenge to every existing galactic civilization's understanding of intelligence, conflict, and adaptation. Military academies across the galaxy began emergency sessions. How could a species with such seemingly primitive technology demonstrate such profound strategic complexity? The Zoraxian Collaborative, a multi-species diplomatic network, convened an emergency summit. Representatives from silicon-based life forms, energy-complex beings, and crystalline intelligences watched human cultural transmissions with a mixture of horror and fascination. "They don't just fight," observed the Trollonarian ambassador, mandibles clicking in confusion. "They communicate through chaos." Marcus Chen, now recognized as a key architect of humanity's defense, was invited to explain their strategy. But explain wasn't the right word. He demonstrated. His presentation wasn't a traditional military briefing. It was a multimedia experience that shifted between quantum mechanics lectures, stand-up comedy routines, abstract art, and complex strategic analysis. Each transition was a deliberate demonstration of human cognitive flexibility. The galactic community realized something profound. Technological superiority meant nothing without the capacity for creative adaptation. Diplomatic requests began flooding Earth's communication networks. Every starfaring civilization wanted to understand how humans transformed limitation into opportunity. Game designers became strategic consultants. Neuroscientists were invited to explain human cognitive processes. Artists were studied as much as military strategists. The Galactic Confederation, once considered an unassailable military power, was forced to completely redesign their entire philosophical and technological approach. Their rigid hierarchical thinking had been their greatest weakness. Jack Reynolds, the retired NASA engineer, summed it up best during a diplomatic briefing. Space exploration isn't about technology, he told the assembled alien representatives. It's about turning the impossible into the inevitable. Quantum physicists discovered that human creativity operated on principles that defied traditional understanding. Their neural networks didn't just process information, they generated possibility. Dr. Aisha Okoy's research became the most studied scientific breakthrough in galactic history. Human consciousness wasn't a linear system. It was a complex, adaptive network that could generate solutions from apparent randomness. The infiltration of the Galactic command ship became more than a military victory. It became a cultural touchstone, a moment when the galaxy realized that intelligence wasn't about processing power. It was about imagination. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had demonstrated a fundamental truth about existence itself. Limitation was just an invitation to create something new. The aftermath was never about victory. It was about understanding. Captain Zarak of the defeated Galactic Confederation sat across from a human journalist, his once proud exoskeleton now seeming fragile and worn. The interview would be broadcast across multiple galactic communication networks, a moment of unprecedented transparency. "How did you underestimate us?" the journalist asked. Zarak's response was simple and profound. "We saw your technology and thought we understood you. We were wrong." In the years following the invasion, humanity wasn't just another galactic civilization. They became something far more significant, a catalyst for reimagining intelligence itself. Military academies across different species began studying human tactics, but it wasn't about weapons. It was about adaptability, about the capacity to transform any limitation into an opportunity. The global collaborative that emerged from the invasion was unprecedented. Every human discipline became a potential pathway to understanding. Game designers worked alongside quantum physicists. Neuroscientists collaborated with artists. The boundaries between creativity and strategy dissolved completely. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now heading the Earth's first interstellar adaptive strategies institute, understood the deeper transformation. "We didn't just defend ourselves," she would often say. "We demonstrated that intelligence is a creative act." Marcus Chen developed training programs that became required study for diplomatic and military operations across multiple star systems. These weren't traditional training modules. They were immersive experiences that challenged fundamental assumptions about conflict, communication, and consciousness. The technologies developed during the invasion transformed human society. Adaptive camouflage became a medical breakthrough for treating dynamic diseases. Quantum communication systems revolutionized global infrastructure. Neural interface technologies opened new pathways for human cognitive development. Jack Reynolds, reflecting on the invasion, captured the essence of humanity's approach. "We've always been explorers," he would tell students, "not just of space, but of possibility." The Galactic, once conquerors, became students. Their entire civilization underwent a fundamental reconstruction. They learned that true strength wasn't about technological superiority, but about the capacity to adapt, to learn, to reimagine. Diplomatic missions from across the galaxy sought to understand the human approach. But understanding proved challenging. How do you quantify creativity? How do you measure the ability to generate solutions from apparent chaos? Dr. Aisha Okoy's research became the foundation of a new scientific discipline. Adaptive intelligence studies explored how consciousness could be viewed not as a fixed system, but as a dynamic, creative process. The invasion became more than a historical moment. It was a cultural transformation. Humanity hadn't just defended itself. It had demonstrated a fundamental truth about existence, that intelligence is not about processing power, but about the capacity to imagine. Captain Zorak, in his final diplomatic report, wrote something that would be studied for generations. We came seeking conquest. We found something far more dangerous. We found a species that doesn't just adapt to change. They generate. The new frontier wasn't about space exploration. It was about understanding that the most profound technology is imagination itself. And humanity was just getting started.